Hey, this is Wednesday, January 27th. It is also going to work for Thursday, January 28th. Those of you who are watching the video, one, I have a new video and microphone, which I'm hoping make things work a little bit better. And two, you might get to watch a grown man cry momentarily because it's already been an entertaining day. Why did three of you get so excited on Zoom and start applauding when I said a grown man cry?
Because you said you had no emotions. I just hurt your feelings.
No, you did not hurt my feelings. I'm going.
See?
All right. So again, last Friday was the e-learning that was on there. We are going to have a new e-learning coming up this Friday. Again, this e-learning is due by 3 p.m. on Friday because that is the new thing that they're pushing out to teachers. So you can turn it in late. It'll just cost you points. For mine, it's going to be like an 8-question quizzy thing over all the stuff we've been covering here in class. Plus, to try and help you on quiz, we're going to review that information one more time in the speedy version of getting you guys a chance to yell at me, and the handful of you who might not have it written down can get it written down. And then hopefully that makes Friday easier. For those of you who are now in the home version, if you did not remember the fact that we have the pages thing, which by the way, there is going to be a question which is going to require you to look at the posters on the thing. So there's going to be a question of which kids know how to go find a picture of the posters, because I figured why not try to make it somewhat challenging on you. So if you don't know how to find pictures of my posters, you're not going to be able to answer one of the questions come thing on Friday. So here's what I'm telling you now. Here's where you find pictures of the posters. On there, find Mythy page. When you go to Mythy page, you can reprint the pink sheet, not pink sheet, blue sheet and white sheet. As we add more sheets and stories, I will keep uploading them on there for you guys to get to. Find the one that says the Myth posters, go clicky, and then you can look around and click on them. Click on each poster, brings you up bigger version. So when you get to the question on the quiz that says on the poster, what can, you can look on the poster to see it. It is just my way to verify that kids know how to go and find posters and go from there. Or you could be the kids that actually pay attention when I talk about them in class, but we'll see what happens from there. And again, I have all the posters on there. So even if you're on here and I'm saying, what can you see in Demeter's picture in the posters? And you're like, I can't see it. Scroll down and you click on that and it brings up super big version of it. And then if you can't see it, that's going to be a you issue. So again, that should make things easier for you, but that is my goal. So now we're going to speed through this so we can get to the new ones. But I figure the more times I repeat it, the better chances of beating it into your heads. Because then I want you to do well as we move forward on things. Carson?
I'm looking at the picture before. Do you actually have your own website?
Yeah. When you go to click on it, it's MrBroviac.com. I bought and paid for it. It's what I used to use for the last 10 years of teaching. It's what I've always used was MrBroviac.com. But with the whole Zoom and e-learning, they've been pushing us to go to Canvas. So I sort of switched over to it. Once we go back to next year, I'm going to dump Canvas and go back to my website. Because my website, I can program it a lot better because I took computer programming skills classes back in the day. And you can't really do that on Canvas nearly well. There's like, if you go to it, there's like all kinds of bonus things on there. I have links to like my author, the books I've written. I have links to a trivia game on there where you can win prizes. There's like all kinds of stuff on my website. We just have not been using it this year. We do, I know. She saw how much I was using mine, and then she used hers and stuff like that. Like, copycat, but you know, whatever. Not throwing shade. So anyway, yeah, if you get really bored when you click on this, you're more than welcome to play around on my website and be like, I have no life, and then just go down and click on buttons and stuff like that, and then we'll try not to judge you too much. Unless you find the trivia game, and then be careful because it's going to be hours of your life you're going to lose because the trivia game takes you on a tour of my background. It has embarrassing pictures of me as a child, but it's going to require. Never mind, we'll leave it there before you get way too excited. Nice. And then here, let's speed through learning bits. So here's where one, those of you who are live and in person, we're going to do the talking out loud thing. On your notesy things, make sure you have stuff in the correct categories so you know where they go. And then also to make sure you know the things that we're talking about to help you out. As in, what category does chaos go into? Nice. And technically goes into all of them because what was chaos?
A giant ball of pudding.
A swirling ball of nothingness that I compared to.
Pudding.
There you go. That's the thing I compared to pudding. Chaos also split to form two gods.
Uranus and Gaia.
Nicely done. Good job pronouncing them the correct way of Uranus and Gaia. I'm so proud of you.
Ernest and Gaia.
Cronus and goes into
God.
is correct. Again, he's for those of you that get a chance to see Mini Skirt Man. That's Mini Skirt Man right over there. Ooh. What is the correct spelling of Cronus?
Any way you want, as long as it sounds
Nicely
like
done.
it.
As long as it's close enough, beginning with the K and stuff like that. See, man, that's where you missed out the whole first semester not being in here and all the distracting things in my room. I know, it's hard to capture on a good video. Hades goes into is correct. Places and gods. Again, he is the one over here, all dark and gloomy behind Colleen. Was Hades evil?
No.
What was he?
Introverted.
There you go. Introverted, antisocial. He just didn't want you to talk to him because it made him grumpy. He wanted you to leave him alone. And what does he name the place where he lives? Is also not very creative. What were humans afraid would happen if you said his name?
He was here, like boom.
You would summon him like boom. I think that's a very scientific term. So what do humans call the place where he lives?
Very creative underworld.
And where was it located?
Underworld.
See, you guys haven't paid attention. And
Because
then
they thought it was flat.
they did. Well, we'll get to that coming up also. Titans goes into
God.
is correct. What's the difference between a god and a titan?
Nothing.
It is fun
Like
to
a
listen to
very
all the different answers that you guys could get. They're the same. Ooh, which of my posters are titans?
Yes.
It is all of them. Good job. Technically, you're correct. Aphrodite and all the other ones also. Except, ooh, hang on. There is one poster I have up of Greek mythology that is not a titan. Schnipple. Zeus is not correct, but you are confident, and that's the first step. Colleen is correct. The one over there, Pan, who's the half man, half goat, he's the only one that is not a titan. All the other ones are. No, goat.
That's what I said.
Goat.
He's the greatest of all time.
The top half is man, bottom half is Tom Brady. And so it's really weird when you see. Wow, throwing shade at Brady. That poor old man. Vulcanized goes into. Ooh. What god did we get vulcanized from?
Hephaestus.
Is correct. And we're going to get to a small story of Hephaestus today. And that brings us to one. We should not be so excited about baby throwing, but yes, correct. Squid.
That's asbestos.
And asbestos is not in paint, it's in insulation in the ceiling. Lead is what's in paint. It's a slightly different thing. I mean, don't drink or eat either one of them. Actually, just don't drink paint, period. But yes, the lead paint does even. Did you just say, mm? There goes my weakness. Tyra? Yes, for all of us, we have that same issue. I'm glad. These are things, this is why we were going to wait a bit before I find out that trustworthy kid. As you keep bringing up stories like that, we can go ahead and go, sure. Confuses paint water with delicious water. Pandora goes into?
Gods and other stuff.
That's correct. Does that stroke halfway through that? Pandora starts off as clay, then becomes a human, then becomes a god, and then becomes a radio station. And then Narcissus is correct. And what is a narcissist? There you go. Depends. I've seen two different versions of it. One, not us yet, that's today lunch. One says Narcissus was a nymph, the little elf-like things, and one said that he was a titan. So being that he's a make-believe person, it just sort of depends on where the stories come from. So I've seen both versions.
Aren't all things make-believe people?
Yes. Nice catch on that one. So they are. Except for Zeus. He was alive and lived in a place called, no, he's make-believe also. And so, yeah, they were all make-believe. Styx. You sound so confident.
And places.
Gods and places. Started off as a god. Ooh, what is the place Styx?
A river.
There you go.
And
Again,
a woman.
above Colleen, that's the little river. Ooh. And because of her personality, when she becomes a river, what happens to a river?
She turns poisonous and kills everyone.
There you go.
And-
Including even killing dead people. And then scythe,
Thing.
it is the Grim Reaper thing, the stick with the pointy slicey thingy on it. It also becomes the very first murder weapon, which we'll get to.
Wait, what? Just wait.
Harpy goes into.
Other stuff.
Harpy was half woman, half
Eagle. No, my bad.
bird. Eagle is a type of bird, but as long as you have the birdie bits in there, it's nicely done. Ooh, and were harpies attractive?
No, they were repulsive.
Mermaids were attractive. Harpies were not. So again, those of you who are guys out here trying to get a date, you probably do not want to try and refer to a girl and say, hey, looking like a harpy today. It's probably not going to go the way you want. Or maybe it will, and you're just not good at talking to ladies. What's up, Kyra? Call her a harpy? He turned another girl, Io, into a cow. But we're going to get into a lot of this.
I remember that.
We have a lot of people getting turned into things. We know the harpies were like just a race of things. He did that. He hid a girl that he was friendly with from Hera by turning her into a cow.
And then Hera created flies to annoy the cow.
You are correct. Then Uranus goes into. There you go. And who is Uranus married to?
Gia.
Nicely done. Thank you, John. Gia. Uranus, also known as father. Gia, known as mother. Nicely done. All right. And then Charon is.
A Pokemon.
What did Charon do?
He was a boat person.
And if you don't remember, that's fine on that one. But Charon was a boat guy that took people across the river Styx. But not a major character in Greek mythology that we're going to get to. More just curious to see what you guys remember. Minotaur goes into half man, half.
Bull.
And really, it was not half and half. It was like 3/4 man and then 1/4 bull, because it was just the heady bits was going to be the bull, but the 3/4 was the man bits. And so same thing. Oh, and there was not a race of them. There was just one. Are you wanting to run away? Yeah, we're going to go to lunch in like 2 minutes. If you want to go, you can. I was just trying to save you a pass.
I'll steal it anyway.
And then, so yeah, the fact is there's only one of them, not a whole race of them. Centaur goes into, and half man, half horse, which is like a goat, but harder to ride. And so that's the half man top bits and horsey bottom bits. I don't need you in logic. This is school. And Tartarus goes into.
Places.
That's correct. Where was Tartarus located?
In the underworld.
In the underworld, in that Hades, easy place. And then Olympus goes to.
Above the world.
And what do you call a person living on Olympus? And how many Olympians were there?
12.
All right, good job. And
Mr. Broviak,
oh, hang on. Elena.
I just noticed one mistake. Tartarus is also a god or a titan.
Yeah, in the version we're doing it is not. That is one of those rare versions of the stories that it's not a thing we're going to get to. So, and you'll find out as we get into it, Tartarus was not a god. That is a version that exists. It's just not one of the main ones. So that's why I don't touch on Tartarus, because it usually just convinces kids. Or not convinces. Confuses by convincing with the difference. And where did you say Epimetheus went?
God.
What was Epimetheus the god of?
Fire.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
With your confidence leopard. Well, I'm not sure I want you pointing at me and yelling stupid people.
seventh grader.
That you're on the right track. Oh, but yes, Epimetheus was the god of stupid people. Satyr goes in. There you go. Half man, half
What?
is correct. It's the one that's over there above Colleen, the half man, half goat. And then Atropos. And we're going to talk about Atropos today because we're going to kill one of you. But that's a story coming up after lunch. Home children, we're going to go eat food and then come out and find out if the kid's responsible. So once again, 12:35. No, 12:30. 12:30. We do video checks. So be back then. So I'll be mailing to you. and then we'll have you take off from there. Yeah, I'm gonna hit mute so I don't bother you guys. Rolling. All right, and we're back. Let's see from there. I apologize for those of you watching the video version because I kind of forgot to turn off the video for like 10 minutes of lunch until I came back, and so we had issues. But we should hopefully be back now, and it's not completely weird. We've gone to new screeny things, so we're going to go to there. Handouty paper, the one that you've been doing the writing on, you can low-key slide that off somewhere else. Just don't lose it. You're going to want it for Friday, but we're not going to need it now. Now is where the blue sheet and the white sheet are going to come in. And we're going to get a chance to go through and talk about all of those things. So blue sheet, you don't need that anymore. That you get to put away somewhere safe. We're going to need the blue sheet and the white sheet handouts. Those we do still need. All right, I'm filling this in. I believe we got through jovial with you guys already, correct? Yay. So what Greek god did we connect jovial to? Works for me. Because what was his Roman name? It's correct. Jove, Jove. He also had the Roman name Jupiter, but that was not the more common one. It did exist. It just wasn't the main one. And then the idea, and what does jovial mean? Much like me, when you see me attacking children in class, it is the whole idea of happy, which is why I am very jovial, both because I'm a happy person and I channel my inner Zeus by smiting children, which we're going to get into is a thing that Zeus did on a regular basis. He and his wife did have the, I'd like to say bad habit, but habit of killing babies. It was a thing, and children, and okay, just people in general, which we'll get to. Then, did we get to the cereal where it came from yet?
Yeah. Demeter.
All right, because what's Demeter's Roman name?
Cereal.
Good job. Ceres, C-E-R-E-S, which you'll get for home children. You get to play the same game. It's from that little piece of papery thing that's right here. That's the thing that we're talking about. And so Ceres is Demeter's Roman name. She's the one over here throwing the gang sign, and that's wheat she's holding on to, not arrows, like my kid yesterday was all confused about. I'm like, and so she's also the one over here that's right behind Nate. Again, that's wheat, not arrows. And then she's the one over here who's throwing her finger into Hades' face, which we'll eventually get to. And so she was the god of grains, harvest, stuff like that. For the definition of cereal, it is going to be a food that comes from, there you go. Originally, just the definition of cereal was food that comes from grains and harvesting and stuff like that. The problem is nowadays, that is not what your cereal is. For most of you, your cereal nowadays is going to be mostly sugar and chocolate, and sometimes chocolate covered sugar, and sometimes sugar with chocolate on it covering other sugar. Which, by the way, there is a history of why this all connects back to Demeter, which way back in the day when they first started making cereal, it was literally just like chunks of grain. Have you guys ever seen the frosted mini wheats?
I love
like
that.
Now realize that's a new thing. They used to be called just mini wheats. Before they were, and by the way, mini wheats had no frosting on them. If you can imagine. so all right, watching your expressions, I said mini wheats without the frosting is exactly why they changed them. It gets worse. Mini wheats was the new version. They used to just be called wheat biscuits. And you used to get one the size of your fist. And that's what the cereal was. Yep, and they would get this, they would literally open the box, and like chunk, and out would come this fist-sized thing, which looks like a frosted mini wheat with no white sugar on top. And it was just a biscuit bit the size of a baby's head. It would land into your bowl, and that's what you would have to eat.
Not the size of my fist.
And you would sit, that's not the size of a baby's head. And you would sit there and take your spoon and you'd go whackety, 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 and you'd smash it up, and then you'd pour milk on it, and your parents would go eat it, and you go, why do you hate me? And you'd have to sit there and eat it, and it was awful. Eventually they realized if you put sugar on it, kids would eat more of it. So they started going, hey, if I put sugar on it, will you eat it? And the kids like, give it a try. And like, sprinkle, sprinkle, and the kids like, and they would sit there and eat mostly the sugar milk with little bits of crunchy bits inside of it. And eventually we switched, and the companies started putting the sugar directly on the mini wheats, and people like that a lot better. Then they realized if you want to make this stuff called money, then the best way to sell it to kids was instead of putting the sugar on the mini wheats, you put sugar on other sugar. And then the kids really enjoyed it. And then they started making all kinds of fat bank. So nowadays, when you guys eat cereal, it's not actually connected to the grains and harvesting. Yours is connected just to sugar, covered sugar dipped in chocolate. So a lot of what you guys have for breakfast is probably not actual cereal. It's just called sugar. No, Mr. Broviak, I just eat a bowl of M&Ms with milk on them. Oh, Cookie Crisp, I'm with you. So it's pretty much the exact same thing. Elena, why do you look horrified by such information?
Why? How do people eat sugar for breakfast? That's nasty. I eat a bowl of oatmeal with a giant spoonful of peanut butter on it, then a small spoonful of Nutella, put it in the microwave for like 30 seconds, then mix it together. It's delicious.
Well, so does peanut butter while you're at it. But yes, well, it's because you don't, I don't know, kids like sugar. Walk down the cereal aisle, look at all the things called sugar bits. Into there. Volcano! Let's go to our next one from there. What was the name again? Close enough for me. It is correct. One, that is, I agree. And Hephaestus, there's multiple spellings of his name too. With Hephaestus, one, your pronunciation may have been off, but you're still better than a lot of kids who try to pronounce it as hepatitis. Hepatitis is not the same thing as the Greek god. Hepatitis is the disease, well, it's not really a disease, but it's a thing you get from not washing your hands and then touching food and then eating the food, like your sugar cereal. And then, yes, you get things called hepatitis. That is not the god hepatitis. That is a completely different thing. He gets really grumpy whenever you look at him and call him that. It has the PH sound, like in a telephone, and so that's why it's called Hephaestus. There will even be some spellings of his name where instead of the PH, it'll just have an F in there. And so I've seen it spelled Hefae, I've seen Hefu. So as long as, again, you get close enough to it, PHF one way or the other. What is Hephaestus' Roman name?
Vulcan.
That's why it connects to volcano. His Roman name is Vulcan, Vulcan, which is where we're going to get volcano from. Now, Hephaestus in Greek mythology, well, one, picture time. He's the one over here I keep pointing to. He's that fellow there. He's over here way back behind where Ledford is. He's kind of really hard to see the reflection on that one. He's the one here, a little bit easier to see. That's Hestia, who is related to him I'm talking about. And so Hephaestus was the god of metalsmithing. He made all the weapons and armor for the gods, which we'll get to. He was actually connected to the Cyclops, which we'll also get to. And
he's ugly.
He was ugly
and disabled.
And the only crippled god. The only god in Greek mythology to ever be crippled was Hephaestus. The only god in Greek mythology to be considered ugly was Hephaestus. And they're connected to each other, and they will be connected to the same story. Not one we get to yet, but we'll get there coming up. And so with Hephaestus, the thing that's in front of him, the black thing,
Anvil.
is this thing called an anvil, which is what, if you watch your Looney Tunes commercials with Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner, this is the thing that the coyote keeps trying to drop onto the Roadrunner, or he takes a little picture on it, or that one thing where he throws the kid out in the hallway who keeps talking when he is. And so all of those connect back to the. It's also in the same picture right up there. Same picture here, you'll see it next to him. It is not a toilet, as a kid in first period thought, but it looks like a toilet. I'm like, I don't know what you have in your hand. I'm assuming this part was the toilet bit, but I was not getting into the conversation with him. In the picture, the thing under his arm right there, it's not like a first period, it's not a roll of toilet paper. It's going to be a crutch that he is holding on to. Back over here, crutch that he is holding on to. Over here, no crutch, he's just sitting down. And that's because he is crippled, and although he's supposed to be ugly, again, that's up to the artist because, again, they're all make-believe. So you can't look up there and be like, Mr. Broviak, he doesn't look ugly. Well, yes, it's just a random drawing. But he was supposed to be the ugly god and the crippled god.
I learned what an anvil was in Minecraft.
Oh, that would work too. Absolutely. Minecraft would be the connection to the anvil and stuff like that. And yes, he is married to Aphrodite, and we'll get to that story when we come up on that one too. Squid.
Is the thing he was born with the green stuff or the purple stuff? That one? Okay.
That one right there. The reason why a volcano is connected to him is in Greek mythology, they thought that Hephaestus worked in his own forge, the place where you make weapons, and he was known to hide in mountains to do it, a thing he learned from the Cyclops. And he would find a mountain, set up a forge inside of it, and begin making weapons for the gods. As he worked, it would build up all the steam and heat and smoke into the top of the mountain until eventually it would build up so much steam and heat and smoke, it would blow off the top of the mountain, which is where you get the word volcano from. Because whenever they saw the top of mountain explode, they would say, oh, that was obviously one of the many homes of Vulcan. So that is a Vulcan home, or just a volcano. And so that's where you get that connection between him. So anytime, and yes, they were aware there were multiple volcanoes all over the place. They believed that he had multiple spots. Once one blew up, he would stop using it for a while, go to a new location, start working there. That one would eventually blow up, and he sort of moved around. And so he would work in there until it sort of exploded, and then he would go start all over again. Why didn't you learn to make a chimney? Because next god. Oh, by the way, it just means mountain of fire. Sorry, I figured you guys would figure out the definition of a volcano. Mountain place with fire spitty bits, I believe is the scientific definition. Thank you for nodding enthusiastically. I can't wait till you guys have to use that in science. Then we get down to Mercurial. Let's see if we can figure out what god we get. Ooh, Shelton. Why do you say Hermes? What's his Roman name? Is correct. So Hermes, yeah, not herpes. Again, we're not naming all of them after diseases we get for poor choices. Are you yelling at him for talking out loud? Hello, irony.
No, I'm not stealing him for talking out loud. I'm saying, why was he saying that?
I have dreams of classes where I don't talk. So Hermes, guy that's over yonder, his Roman name is Mercury, and so he was god of speed and fast things. He was the messenger god. Again, for those of you at home, if you bring up posters and look at him, Hermes, orange and yellow guy. We're going to be talking about several things in this poster in a second. He's also the over here behind Schnip. He's the guy that apparently ran so fast his shirt fell off. Poor guy. And then he is the one that's over here who kept his shirt on that time. Hiccup. Greek mythology, they did not have a postal service for the most part, so you had to have someone deliver things for you. That's where Hermes comes in. He was the fast god, so they used him to deliver letters. So he was the messenger god. We'll get to the story of his creation. We eventually get there. He was also the god of thieves, because if you are going to steal things from people, you need to be fast when you do it. Because if I'm going to walk over and steal something from Olivia, I want to do it quick enough for her not to be able to catch it happening. Or if she does catch me, I want to be able to run away really quickly. So thieves would pray to Hermes. He was also the god of travelers. If you're going from one location to another, you would pray to him because you did not want to be on the road very long. One, because people would rob you. Two, you have these things called children, and you wanted to spend as little time with them as possible in the car. So you would pray to God, make me get done with this trip before I kill that child. And so you would pray to Hermes to go really quickly. He was also the god of merchants. Do you know what a merchant is? There you go. Because back then, it was much like when you go to Kings Island or you go to the carnival and the people were in the booth and they would just yell at you. Same thing back then. The faster you could talk and yell, the more money you could make. So because of that, merchants would pray to Hermes. So it's the same idea. Mercurial, the word means to change quickly, oftentimes used in sporting events and stuff like that. If you have a running back who can change direction quickly, you will say they are a mercurial running back. You can have someone whose personality changes quickly. If they go from really happy to sad, that can be a mercurial change in personality. Like bipolar. Bipolar is a whole different thing. It's just like, let's say you have teacher who's really happy and telling stories, and then kid keeps interrupting him and talking, and all of a sudden the teacher stops in the middle of class and starts yelling at child. You're like, whoa, that was a mercurial. And so that means the fact that it went from happy to angry really quick, that's mercurial. I got all excited. Hold a second. I thought I had another thing from mercurial. We'll come back to this in a second. Kyra?
Is Hermes also like the messenger for like people too, because like if they have like postal services and not like railways for people, like you just have to like I don't know how that works. But like if there were like people, like actual people in that country, so you could like tell them
I'm assuming they probably had some kind of postal service back then, some kind. Yeah, I just know they didn't have. They definitely did not have email or anything fun like that. So if you had to run quickly and deliver a thing, you would then pray to him. The thing that you see in his hands, which home children, I'll show you in just a second, it's this stick. That's a letter. This stick has two snakes wrapped around it and then two wings at the top. He has it in every picture. Again, behind Schnipp, you can kind of see the little white wings up there at the top. Over here, you can see the little white wings at the top. On the screen, you'll see some looks like that. This is called the CADUCEUS staff. It was a stick that had two wings on it and snaky things that sort of wrapped back and forth. He used it to heal people. You should recognize this.
On the ambulance.
There you go. You'll see it on medical things, ambulances, on the way down to lunch, back and forth. They have the little shocky paddle things that are on the little wall. On the little shocky paddle things, they're going to have this symbol because it gets connected to medical things. There is another version of it, which does not have two snakes and wings, where it looks like it is just a single stick with a snake wrapped around it. They are actually two different stories in Greek mythology. This is called the staff of Asclepius. This is the CADUCEUS, two different things, but humans are dumb. And over time, they went stick and snakes, same story. And they kind of just combined them together, which is why sometimes you're going to see this symbol for medicine, and then sometimes you're going to see that symbol for medicine. They both connect back to Greek mythology. Here's why. Hermes, one of his jobs was if a person in general died. Let's say poor Steiner makes a poor choice and then dies in the middle of class. Like, no, Steiner, and then down she goes. The Greeks believed her soul pops up like a little ghost above her body. And it's like, no, I'm dead. Hermes' job was to take her soul to the underworld. He would run by, grab her ghost, and then take her down to the river Styx and throw her across, and she'd flap in the little wind like a ribbon as he took her down there. He'd take everyone who dies, he'd collect them all around like a bunch of ribbons, throw them all across. But let's say it's not time for Steiner to die yet. And so he decides that he runs by, he's like, you know what? We're going to let Steiner live because I'm busy right now, or maybe it's not her time. He had his little special stick, and as he ran by Steiner, as opposed to grabbing her soul, he would touch her with the stick. And she would then go, and then come back to life. So his job was either take you to the underworld or bring you back to life. So when you got doctors who wanted to show you that once you start to die, they could bring you back to life, they started using his stick as that symbol. So if Steiner starts to have a heart attack, and we're like, no, save Steiner. You had to try and find the right place to take her. You would take her to the building that had that symbol on it. You'd be like, oh, so much easier. Or that one, because it was even easier to draw and find, if you found either one of those, that meant they can save you. So nowadays, they still use this symbol going all the way back to Hermes and Greek mythology. So whenever you see stick with wings and snakes, it connects to him and trying to save people. Good job, Steiner. You're not dead. Yeah, we're going to kill you again in a second. Fatal! Before we kill Steiner again, figure out where we get fatal from.
Okay.
Why do you say the face?
Because they use this thing that kills people like killing the life. Yeah.
You are correct. We get the word fatal from the face. Also, good job not mispronouncing this one. I've had a number of kids who try to make it sound Greek, and they call them the fatties, or even I've heard the fatties, and I'm like, no. They're like, are you sure? Like, yes, I'm sure they're not called the fatties. And so the three fates, there were three sisters, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. And let me give you a little story that goes along with them also. I think I mentioned them when we were talking about Atropos, the three sisters that shared the eyeball that popped from one to the other. So these are the three fates that work together. They were older than almost any of the gods. They were some of the original ones to exist. It was believed in Greek mythology that when any Titan or human was born, that there was a string of life that controlled how long you were to exist before you would die. Titans had them. Humans had them. The first sister was a girl by the name of Clotho, Clotho, and she had a giant ball of string. It was considered the life that would lead for everybody forever. Once the string was used up, we would have no more things ever born. And so her job was to take this giant ball and pull off the first little part of the string and hand it to the second sister. The second sister's name was Lachesis. Lachesis had a special measuring stick. But instead of like feet and inches, it had seconds, minutes, hours, days, stuff like that. So we're going to have young baby Steiner is getting ready to be born. Before baby Steiner is born, when she's like, Mama Steiner's like, here comes baby Steiner. And we're all excited. They start pulling out the string. She hands it to Lachesis. Lachesis begins to measure how long Steiner's going to be alive before she's even born. It could be 13 years, 30 years, or it could be 90 years. But as soon as they measure it down there, the third sister steps up, a girl by the name of Atropos. And then Atropos had magic scissors. As soon as she cut the string, that was the moment that Steiner would be born. They'd pull the string out, slap it down, Atropos would go cut, and that string would immediately disappear and fizzle like little sparkles. Sparkle! And that's the moment Steiner comes into existence. So as here comes baby Steiner, string, measure, slap, cut, fizzle, out comes Steiner. Her lifespan is already predetermined, however long that is going to be. Gods also had strings too. It was thought Zeus had a string, Poseidon had a string. It's just their strings were longer. Instead of going out to like the 90-year mark, they would grab Zeus's string and be like, boo, boo, and just keep pulling like a giant pile of string, and then eventually you cut it, and then boo, and then that's the moment that that Titan particular one is born. Now let's go back to poor Steiner. Let's say we get to that 13-year, 3-month, 5-day mark, whatever it's going to be. They're not telling us how Steiner dies, just the moment that Steiner dies. And the moment your string is up, you die, depending on what you're doing. If Steiner's walking down the street and her string is up, then all of a sudden a bus going by is like, ah, and then just runs over her. And you're like, oh my God, Steiner died. And so it means her string was cut by the fates, so it was a fatal accident. So if it's a fatal accident, what happens to Steiner?
She did.
So fatal means that you die from it. Now, let's say that, she's, I don't know, let's say Steiner is trying to prevent herself from being killed. And she's like, you can't get me, fates. So Steiner goes into a big empty room with nothing in it. And she's like, you can't kill me. 13 years, 3 months, 5 days. I'm going to spend the whole day sitting in this big empty room so no buses can get me. And she's a genius. The problem is, as soon as her string was up, heart attack. She's like, I made it! And then down she would go. Or all of a sudden a plane driving by, like, and would just crash right into the top of it. So no matter what, you die at that moment. If you've seen the movie series, Final Destination, that is based on this exact same idea. In Final Destination, it's about people who are supposed to die because their strings are up, but they missed that death thing. So all of a sudden, death keeps trying to catch up with them. That actually connects back to Greek mythology and the idea of your string being up for you. Right?
So isn't like the fuse of the ball?
Sort of, but it was already in existence. But yes, as that fuse keeps disappearing, and once your fuse is gone, then you're gone too. Snip.
So the face,
Uh-huh.
Clover, LaJesus, and Trophy.
Yes, LaJesus was my favorite.
Okay. Are they their own type of thing, or are they like?
They were Titans.
Okay.
So yeah, they're related to all the other ones. And how they got the job, I don't know. I've not found a good story that explains it. They just explain the fact that they've just been in existence for a long time. They weren't one of the first 12, because I'll introduce you to the first 12, and so they were the ones that came after them. Again, if you try to apply logic, it's just going to hurt your head. Carson?
So I was wondering. So like you said the strings just disappear.
Uh-huh.
Would it go somewhere or did it just randomly appear back?
It's more like it becomes your soul. So the fizzling of it is fizzled, and then all of a sudden, Evie's soul's like, and it comes together, and that's what forms your soul in life. Once your string is up, then your soul's gone. That's the easy way of looking at it. Squiddy.
So I know they're not kind of one of the first like 12, but
Mhm.
if you were interviewing or counting, would you count them as 3 people or 1?
3 people. They're 3 separate people. Just like you and your sister are 2 different people. What? They're just like, well, you and your sister are 2 different people. The same thing with them. They're just 3 sisters that hang out together. So I would count them. I mean, so they're like a group, like those Watkins girls. Oh, see, there's 2 of you. The heroes, like those Fates girls. There's 3 of them. They all had the same last name, which was imaginary. Ryan.
So, is it, so, does it only apply to humans or does it apply to, say, dogs?
Sure. Titans and humans are the main things they went for. Yes.
Okay.
Did they actually share a mind?
That was more a make-believe thing. I've not seen many stories that connect. That was more the fact they were considered to be blind. Rush.
So what happens if you die when your string isn't up?
That's the next thing I'm getting to. Nicely done. All right. So now let's say we have Smiley, who decides that she is going to go seek out the Fates and find out how long her string is. And Smiley decides that she is going to be a hero to go out and fight crime. And Smiley discovers that she is going to live until she's 85 years old. She's like, I've got 70 years to fight crime. And she's all excited. And she goes out there with the very first person. She knows for a fact her string goes until 80. So she approaches her first bad guy and goes, do your worst. You can't kill me. And they go, okay. Bam! And they shoot her right in the head. She doesn't die. She goes into a coma for 70 years. And so that was how they would explain it. When you have someone who has like a horrible thing happen to them, and then like they're in a coma for years, you're like, oh, what? Because their string is not up, but they've done a thing that should cause them to die, but their string is keeping them alive. So that was how the Greeks explained things like a coma or like this horrible injury where you should. Or the same thing, you're like, oh my God, Smiley was supposed to die, but she fought through it. That would kill most other people. It would, but her string was not up. So because her string was not up, you keep going through it. Don't try to background. All right, yes.
I like that word for Kim. She was coming around reviving people.
Solid question. 1, you're trying to apply logic, which is going to hurt your head. The sooner you give up on that, the better you'll do in Greek mythology. And 2, the best way I can connect to it is that it was oftentimes that for some reason, the Fates would just know that it wasn't the time, and so as he went by, that maybe he would know. Solid question. I have no good answer for that. I've not found anything in there. They just did a lot of just vague. When you ask that question, like, that's a good squirrel, and they just run away. And so they didn't really try to answer those things because they realized that logic, the same thing like when we killed the sky coming up in a moment, you're going to be like, that does it. And they're like, squirrel, and they just run. They really like squirrels. And Iris. Let's go to that one next. Okay, Colleen. Yes, Iris. What god does it come from? It is. I'm taunting you because it brings me happiness. Good job, Colleen. And so Iris comes from Iris. Colleen, what is Iris the god of? Are you asking me?
Color.
Nicely done. Iris was the rainbow god and god of colors. We're going to get to why she's the rainbow god, but we're going to save that for a little bit because it involves lots of awkwardness and friendliness and Zeus, and we're not quite ready for that point yet, but it's coming up soon enough. Oh, as far as the definition of Iris being the rainbow god, there are 2 definitions of Iris. You guys know what an iris is?
Eye.
Which part of your eye?
The middle.
Well, you just stop calling it the thing. But yes, it's going to be the colored part of your eye. And the other iris, what was that? Is correct. An iris is a type of flower. And so it is both because that whole rainbow thing. A lot of your body parts are named from things from Greek mythology and just Greek in general. And so when you have the colored part of your eye, they named it after the rainbow god. Why did they name the flower after it? Yeah, I have no idea. Because it has lots of colors? Yes. As opposed to all the other flowers. So I don't know why this one got named after rainbow god as opposed to like tulips or roses or carnations or any number of other flowers that have colors to them. But this one apparently won the contest. Maybe it's because the petals look like rainbows. I was just seeing if anyone would believe that. I have no idea either. But sometimes if I say a thing and sound confident, you're like, yeah, rain. bow. I mean, that one kind of looks like a ring. Wow. And then here's your eyeball. That's a close-up of my eye, so don't freak out too much.
That's your eye? No, it's not.
Unless Mr. Broviak wears eyeliner, then that's not him.
What did I just get done saying on this one? I lie on a regular basis to see what you guys will believe. No more than 4 seconds later, I go, this is my eye. And you're like, what? No, lie. But I just told you I lied to you. Sorry, back to my happy place. Hang on, to here, what is the middle part called? Nicely done. This part is the? Now, this is not called the white bit. There's an actual name for it. You guys know?
No.
It's called sclera. S-C-L-E-R-A. No, you don't have to know it for me. It was more just a curiosity because everyone seems to know pupil, and you guys know iris, and I keep going out from there, and you're like, there's a name for that? Yeah, it's called sclera, not the white bit. Or as the kid earlier called it, the eggy bit? And I'm like, no, it's not called the eggy bit either. Nate?
Can I put my other Simpson sheet on your desk?
Yeah, as long as your name's on it, you number them. That's fine with me. Kyra. Thank you. I grew them myself. Greta.
Did you know there's a name for the top of your phone? I forget what it is, but I looked it up yesterday and it was kind of cool because I never knew that there was a name for
And
it.
obviously it meant a lot to you because you immediately forgot about it.
Yeah.
That feels like I'm teaching all over again. All right. And then we go to music and museum.
My arm hurts.
From handing in that piece of paper.
No, sorry, I didn't.
Oh, that would make more sense there. Rye. Why do you say muses? Works for me. Strong answers. They are. I mean, are you talking about the Hercules cartoony movie thing? Yes. Although there's not 3, there's 9 of them. And so the way this works in Greek mythology with the muses is the Greeks were, hang on, itchy nose. I did, thank you. We're convinced that, well, we're going to get to a story coming up. Humans are made out of clay. All the human race, we are basically like little Pinocchios, and we are animated clay. Because we are animated clay, the Greeks were convinced that humans had no natural artistic abilities. None of you did. Any more than it would be if you took a paintbrush, crammed it into a chunk of clay, and went do something, and the clay just sat there, and you're like, oh, useless. Humans were the same way. But Mr. Broviak, I've seen artisty things. You have. The reason you've seen artisty things is because of the muses. The 9 of these muses, think of them as, you guys have seen Ghostbusters?
No.
The Slimer, they got a little green. So they believed that these muses could either A, possess you, or B, they could pass through you and leave like slimy stuff on the inside of you, but a good slime. Well, that sounds really weird to say it out loud. But the idea is that you would have this residue from it. And the 9 of them each had a different area. There was a muse of poetry, a muse of dance, there was a muse of singing, there was a muse of acting, and they each had a different muse. And let's say this muse decided that Zeke was going to be an actor. And so the muse would then go and possess Zeke and go into her body. She's like, I don't know how to be or not to be. And she'd go off on this thing. And it's because this particular muse would be acting like a little puppet, sort of moving you around and stuff like that. Then when the muse pulls back out, it leaves a little bit of that musy slime inside of you, and you get to hold on to it for a while. It's why there's a band called Muse. The idea is that they're supposed to be inspired by all of these muses that are out there. So when you hear sound that sounds beautiful, it's because this muse possessed them. And so that beautiful sound is not caused by humans, it is caused by the muses. A museum is not a collection of things created by humans. A museum is a collection of things created by the muses, which is where that whole muse thing comes in. So a music is the pretty sound created by a muse. A museum is a collection of art that all connects back to these muses.
You're a muse.
I try to, which connects again to muse. So anytime you try to tell someone it is a compliment to say, you are my muse, it means you inspired them to do this magical thing, artistry-wise, because they inspired this, like they work through you like a muse. Now, for those of you who are trying to hit on the ladies, calling them a harpy, bad. Calling them a muse,
On my screen, you're frozen, Mr. Broviak.
Yeah.
Wait, so it's not just me?
Yeah, it's not just you.
Okay,
I can't
I'm
hear him
wondering
either.
because everyone else is moving, but Mr. Broviak froze.
Yeah, everyone else is moving. Okay, Mr. Broviak.
Okay, he left. Now what?
Parker's the host.
Oh, geez. That's not good.
I guess just let him back in if he tries to join again.
Yeah, let's just wait. Hopefully he realizes he got kicked out. He may have not even realized because he's not looking at the iPad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check what time this class ends so we don't stay here too long.
It ends in like
Yeah, I
2
think
minutes.
Yeah. 2 minutes.
Should we like get out and join his meeting again just in case he created a new one?
I guess you can try that.
No,
Wait,
he
it
can't
doesn't
make a
work.
new one. He can't make a new one because this is a reoccurring one. That's why we hit the link. That's why
Oh
we hit
yeah,
the
true.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Roviak's back. He's host
Oh yay,
now.
Mr. Broviak's back.
we're having technical difficulties. Apparently Zoom just keeps crashing and deciding that I should be done teaching. So we'll just go ahead and wrap up and we'll see if you guys, apparently I'm done teaching according to Zoom. So we'll just go ahead and be done. I'll put the stuff up for you guys tomorrow and I'll see you guys next week. And hopefully Zoom is not going to have such an attitude. All right.
Just so you know,
Bye.
when Parker became the host.
Stupid Zoom.